of the Can Along With Us workshop. My name is Mildred, and I'll be the moderator for this afternoon. I coordinate the Urban Harvest Program at Black Creek Community Farm, so I welcome everyone. If you're coming in from this morning's session, welcome back again. If you are new and you're joining us for today's workshop, you're very much welcome, and I hope you learn a lot, just like our attendees in the morning. So first off, I would like to introduce now Ayan. She's from Urban Harvest Rexdale, and she coordinates the program in that community. And she'll be talking to you about this event in relation to Waste Reduction Week. So welcome, Ayan.
Thank you, Mildred. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the second session of today's workshop. So in celebration of Food Waste Reduction Week, we'll briefly begin with what Food Reduction Week is. So Food Reduction Week in Canada started last Monday, October 19th, and will end this Sunday, October 25th. It's a national campaign that focuses on principles of circular economy, resource efficiency, and waste reduction. It takes place throughout all of Canada. So we're excited to have folks from all over tuning in today. Today's theme is food waste. This virtual gathering is an opportunity for us to share food waste reduction tips and encourage each other to reduce food waste. So as you know, as you're most likely aware, food waste is a huge challenge both globally and in Canada. In the next few slides, we'll briefly touch on what food waste problem is in Canada. So just there are multiple definitions of food waste, but broadly speaking, food waste refers to food that completes the food supply chain up to the final product of good quality and fit for consumption, but it still doesn't get consumed because it's discarded, whether or not after it's left to spoil or expire. Food waste typically, but not exclusively, takes place at the retail and the consumption stages in the food chain. Next slide, Christina. So according to a recent National Zero Waste Council research on food waste in Canadian households, they found that about 63% of Canadians throw away food that could be eaten, with average Canadians throwing away nearly 140 kilograms of food per year. This is referred to as avoidable food waste. Similarly, in Toronto, avoidable food waste is also a huge concern. It accounts for about 50% of food waste generated by households annually. Some of the other findings that the National Zero Waste Council research on food waste showed was that in Canadian households, vegetables are wasted about 30% of the time, fruit about 15%, leftovers about 13%, bread and bakery about 9%, and dairy and eggs about 7%. Christina, next slide. So you might be wondering, what are some of the impacts of food waste? And just broadly speaking, there are a number of negative impacts of food waste, some of which include food waste contributes to greenhouse gas emission, and a lot of our food ends up in landfill emitting methane. This overall contributes to climate change and ultimately threatens our entire food system. Additionally, food waste causes financial burden that impacts the food chain, growing processes, transportation, waste management. These factors are all affected by food waste. Food waste, wasted food waste, wastes food resources, sorry about that, used to grow, produce, and distribute that food to consumers. In Canada, it is said that about 1 in 8 households are food insecure. So a lot of this surplus, perfectly good food could aid individuals who are food insecure. However, we do acknowledge that both food insecurity and food waste problems in Canada need a comprehensive and sustainable policies in order to solve. So in terms of what are we doing as Black Creek Community Farm and Rexdale Community Health Center about these issues? The Urban Harvest Program has two main objectives. The first one being surplus harvest collections. So sorry, Christina, can you go back to the last slide? Or
I took down the slides because you could just talk about the program.
okay.
That's all right.
On this slide, there were two objectives that our programs mainly focus on. The first being surplus harvest collections. So what that entails is that we collect surplus harvest from communities. So Black Creek mainly collect from the Black Creek community, and us in Rexdale, we collect from the Rexdale community. And then we distribute that food to communities who are in need. The second objective of our programs are what we're doing today, which is food preservation and waste reduction workshops. Specifically for Urban Harvest Rexdale, and I think Christina in a moment will speak to Black Creek Community Farm. For Rexdale Community Health Center, what we're currently doing, for instance, is running a 6-week program on food preservation at home program. As you can imagine, due to COVID-19, our programming has changed to virtual. So for the next 6 weeks, we are engaging about 30 community members on ways that they can preserve and prolong their food, as well as ways that they can overall reduce their food waste. I'll pass it on to Christina to now touch on some of the initiatives that they have going on at Black Creek Community Farm right now.
Thanks for that, Adrienne. Yeah, so our Urban Harvest program runs kind of similarly. The only thing, we do food workshops as well, but we do them bi-weekly, and we make them just accessible for the public and for Black Creek community members to join in online. We have urban harvest leaders that have been trained in the past that are all Jane and Finch residences, where we teach food preservation tips and also facilitation skills on running workshops, so that it's residents within the neighborhood empowering other residents, which is really great. As Adrienne has mentioned, a lot of household food waste is avoidable, but requires the food skills to prevent the waste. So practicing food preservation is a great benefit to avoiding that, but also it can benefit your own personal food security as well. And so today we have 3 different presenters with 3 different food preservation techniques and tips. We are starting off with Mildred, who's going to give us an overview of dehydrating your harvest. So Mildred is an active resident, volunteer, and organizer in the Jane and Finch community for the past 10 years. She actually oversees the Urban Harvest program here at the Black Creek Community Farm. And prior to that, she volunteered at the Parenting Center and learned a lot about the challenges many families, especially immigrants, face when integrating into society. So in 2017, she began a mom's group that was funded by a neighborhood grant to just address a lot of these gaps. And she was able to engage over 250 parents and their children from low-income families to participate in gardening and a healthy lifestyle program. Gardening and preserving food is a way of life for her and her family. So it's really great to see that she can share those skills amongst other community members here. And yeah, so here is Mildred.
Yay! Thanks, Christina. Hey, welcome everyone again, and thanks. I know there's a lot of people like coordinators and moms coming from our parenting center in the community and outside. So I was a big part of the parenting centers. I used to take my son to 3 parenting centers in the community, and it helped me a lot as a big support and as a way for me to engage with the different moms. So yes, thank you so much for being a part of this. So welcome. This is my presentation for today. It's not extensive. It's just like a beginner on how to dehydrate. Don't be intimidated by, I have a big toy here, but I'll start off with dehydration as a very accessible way to preserve foods. You don't need different gadgets like this. What you need is actually just to dry and take out the moisture. So in terms of preservation technique, this is probably one of the most ancient ways to preserve food. The way food is preserved is you take out all the moisture. So once the moisture is taken out, there's no way for the bacteria, yeast, or mold to grow in the food. So it's safe and it's shelf stable. It's also like compact and lightweight. So for those who love to go camping, you want to go for a few days on the road or a few days out in the wilderness, or even like car camping, this is one way to really have like a lightweight of food to pack with you. And also, I know there's a lot of people, due to COVID, they started to do gardening. So there's a lot of abundant herbs and fruits and vegetables. I know it's the end of the season, but maybe there's still something else in your garden, and this is one way to also grab all the remaining herbs in your garden and just try to preserve them. So when it comes to herbs, they're highly volatile because of their aromatic oils. They would evaporate, so you don't want to subject them actually to direct sunlight and heat. So normally, what you would do is you would take some of a bunch, a few in a bunch, and what you would do is you would use an elastic or a rubber band like this, and you would wrap it around at the end of the branch. Okay, imagine this would be like a fresh herb. Okay, why you want to use elastic is because it would hold it better as the branches shrink. Some of them could fall off. So then elastic is a better way to hold them. Another way that I use actually is this turkey string that you use for holding the turkey legs. So this is good as well. Just try to make sure that it is very tight when you do that. So you would just hang this basically in your kitchen where there's good air circulation. So just make sure that air circulates around. Okay, this would work very well in dry locations like Mediterranean or in the tropics when there is no, it's not so humid. It works very well. Okay, if it is humid, if your kitchen is humid, just try to make sure maybe you can get a fan to let the air circulate around. So this is mint. This is lemon. This is oregano. I have a lemon balm somewhere. I think this is lemon balm. Okay. So you can preserve any of these herbs that you like. Drying won't work very well though with herbs like parsley and basil because their aromatic oils they tend to evaporate fast. But they would go well when you chop them up and then put them together with butter, softened butter, and then you freeze that, and then you can use that for your spreads and other stuff that you want to use it as. Okay, so another item that you can dry easily is red peppers. So these are red peppers. Okay. And what you do with them is you form a bunch. Again, you use your elastic. Okay, I don't want to put more than 5, just so I have enough air circulation going around the peppers. So it becomes like that. And if you string it together, okay, and you put another one like this, so you have a very pretty chandelier. All right. So your kitchen would look so pretty. Okay. And the end product would be like this. Okay, so chili peppers. So what do you do with this? You can just crush it and just like when you're sauteing something like pasta sauce in the beginning, like crush it and then put a little bit on it on your pasta sauce, stew, or anything that you want to have like a little bit of like kick. Okay. You can also use it like create your own spice rub or spice. So you can like add any of the herbs that you have dried, okay, and maybe some of the peppers. And then what you do is you put some salt in it, you pulse it in your food processor, and then you can store it in a jar like this and let it like meld together the flavors, and you can put it in your fridge for 7 to 14 days to just like meld the flavors together. And you can store it in the fridge, and then whenever you need like a barbecue rub, you can use that. Okay. Another item that you can preserve. Okay, so that's all about like drying. The I know a lot of people, they love their tomatoes. I planted, I think at least a dozen different varieties of tomatoes this year. I have it in my back and in my front yard, and I have tons of tomatoes. So I want to enjoy my tomatoes during the winter. So I dehydrated some of my tomatoes actually. So one way to dry your tomatoes is if there's in the summer there's plenty of sun, so you can like do that. You can cut it into strips, like this. Cut it and then quarter it, and then cut it again like quarter size. Squeeze the seeds. There's an option to squeeze it and discard of it. And there's if you want to keep it, you can do so as well. The reason why you want to like squeeze it is to make it like to hasten, make it faster, the drying of the tomatoes. And it's more flavorful than the one that has the seeds in it. So you can do that, and then you can dry it out in the sun, just like we do like in the tropics. Here, let me show you. So this is the tomatoes. I cut it and took out the seeds. Okay. This is another way to dry the peppers. It's a bit faster. You can do this in outside as well in the sun. And you can use, you can be creative. Use your window screen. And if you have so many window screens, like you can like lay them all out, different like tomatoes and peppers, and lay them all out like that. Okay. What else do we have in here? So I have also this one is a butternut squash. Okay. So I use mandolin, which I will demonstrate to you later. Okay. So I cut them all out like this. And if you notice, I separate all the cut outs slices so that they have enough room for the air to circulate around. Okay. With the squash and carrots, what I did was to retain the bright color. I blanched them first. The carrots I blanched for 4 minutes in the boiling water, and then the squash I blanched for 6 minutes. Okay, and then I put them in here. The last one I'm gonna show is this ring of apples. Okay, so this you cut them all up, and it's a good snacks for the kids. Now I'm gonna show you. So how do we cut them up so thinly? Okay. So with the apples, I'm going to show you an example. If you are working with the apples, you want to like core the apple first. So you get a corer. Okay, you can get them in in the dollar store. They're like cheap, and you want to take out the core like inside. Okay. Okay. And once after you do that, okay, you get your mandolin. Okay. Be very careful when you're handling mandolin because it's very sharp. It's not safe for the kids to be working with this, so always make sure that if you are around kids, make sure that you're the only ones like touching this. And it's good if you have this part of the mandolin. It's the one where you like attach it or with like poke it because it has this the spikes on one side of it. Push it down onto the fruit, and then now you can like push it and slide it down to the mandolin, and you get this beautiful apple slices. Okay. Now we know that apple oxidizes so fast, so what you want to do is dip it in water with lemon in it. So 1:1 ratio. So put that in that, so it won't turn brown. And then after you do that, you put it in here in the dehydrator. Okay, and the same with carrots. I did that as well. Same with with the pumpkin. I took out the skin because it's a little bit tough. So when it shrinks and you eat it, you might some people might get annoyed with the pokey texture of the skin. So I took it out first, and then I slice it. I run it down with a mandolin. And so you can get a consistent slice like this. So the slice would be like 1/6 to 1/4 of an inch, okay, not more than that, because then it would take a long time for you to dehydrate the fruit or the vegetable. So just for demo purposes, like I know I have like different things going on in here, but when you're doing your own like dehydration, I would suggest that you don't mix things up. Especially if what you have is like peppers and apples, they don't go well, and it might lend the flavor or scent to the other like fruits or vegetables. So I would suggest that you make a big batch of tomatoes if you're doing that, and it's all tomatoes. Or if it's like apple and something like carrots, maybe that want like exchange the flavors or the scent, it's okay. That way you maximize the use of your dehydrator. So what's the difference between dehydrator and oven? Like, can I use my oven if I don't have a dehydrator? So yes, you can. The difference between the two of them is that this is made to actually be efficient in taking out the moisture. Why? Because it has a fan at the back and it runs on very low heat. So it doesn't destroy the enzyme that is in the fruit or in the vegetable, and it circulates the air properly around the surface of your fruits and vegetables. So you can use your oven, conventional or convection. What you need to do though is to leave the door like slightly ajar by putting like a wooden ladle, or wooden ladle, and put it at a very low setting. Now there's no exact there's like approximate range how long you will like use and dehydrate your vegetables, but there's approximate like this one. Okay, there just follow the manual. For a lot of fruits and vegetables, they would take like up to like 4 to 8 hours. Okay, I know it's long, but so it's a matter of like checking on the vegetable or fruit that you have if they are dry. Make sure that they are totally dry, because otherwise like molds would grow on the surface of the vegetable. Okay, so here it says here herbs and grains. The setting is 115, vegetables 120 degrees Fahrenheit, fruits 135, and meat, fish and jerky is 150. So yes, if you love jerky or any meat, you want to dehydrate any meat, you can use this. So this is good to use and fun to use in the winter when there's not much going on outside. And it would also like warm up your house or your kitchen, and it can stay there for hours, like dehydrating, and it's also like efficient. So I think that's it. So in terms of like final product, you would be aiming for a texture like this. So it's like crunchy. This is an apple. So you would be aiming for like this final product. Okay. And you can just snack on it. It's a healthy snack for the kids, and it can stay. It is shelf stable. It can stay for a long time. You can put it in a like a jar, or even better if it's like vacuum sealed. There are like equipment where you can use that, but they're okay if you put them in a jar, or at least like squeeze out the remaining air in the Ziploc. All right, and another thing that you can use, I still have lots of kale in my garden, so you can also make kale chips. Okay, if you don't have the hydrator, don't worry. If you Google kale chips, how to make kale chips, okay, you can like do that. Just put olive oil, mix it, and then put it in a baking sheet, and follow the setting for the oven. Okay.
Thank you, Mildred. This is amazing. Yeah, dehydrating your food is such a great and like low maintenance way to preserve your food. So
I think one last item, Christina.
yes.
So if you're new to preserving, it's always good to like I know you can Google recipes, and it's good that you can like find those recipes. But it's also good to invest in books. If you don't have the money, we have a lot of preservation books in the library. You can borrow that, but it's good to like get one, and then that has a lot of like different preservation methods. So like this one is very simple actually, and it has you can ferment, dehydrate, smoke, freeze, pickle, and so on. Okay. And this is another way. Like I know we spoke about jam and jelly and pickling in the morning, so it's always good to have. This is like the Bible of like of preserving, Bernardin. So it's always good that a lot of their recipes are tested, so you can be assured that like your final product will be shelf stable. And there are other like ways where eventually, if you fall in love with preserving like I did, and with all our urban harvest leaders, so you can start like investing in other books like this. So this is just to get you inspired in trying out. So I would suggest start out with preserving, start drying some herbs or any herbs. I know when we buy in the grocery store, it comes in a big bunch. So I would encourage you to try that, so that our food don't go to waste. And thank you.
Thanks, Mildred. So there was only one question which was answered. It was about putting the apples in lemon water to avoid browning. So it was great that you were able to answer that. We're going to move on to Daniel now, who's going to be talking a bit about fermentation and share two recipes. So who is Daniel? Daniel is a highly skilled pastry chef and cook with a culinary career that has taken him all over the world. In the past, he was politically active with the International Socialists, and he's worked for many social causes, including union rights. Daniel is passionate about healthy cooking and eating and its impact on quality of life. And he wants to share this knowledge with others and is very enthusiastic about it. So go ahead, Daniel, and take it away.
Thank you. So fermentation. So fermentation is about taking, well, actually fermentation goes back thousands of years ago, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, way before refrigeration. So there's different ways to ferment things. I have a bunch of fermented goodies over here. So what you're doing with fermentation is you can take like a kombucha, or you can take mother sourdough starter. And what you're doing is you're creating an environment where mold and harmful bacteria cannot multiply. So with this particular cabbage, what we're going to do today, we're going to use salt. And so what salt's going to do, salt's going to go in there and mix it all into with the cabbage and with the beets. And it's going to create an environment where the other germs can't live. And the only germ that can live will be lactic acid. And it's a lactic acid that actually converts all the sugars in the vegetables or in anything, basically, converts the sugars to probiotics. Now, the key to probiotics is, and it's, people don't quite grasp this, I think, because you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you antibiotics, and some people actually need antibiotics. But if I'm not mistaken, about 70% of antibiotics prescribed are wasted. So you're killing off with your gut flora, and it's the probiotics that actually create the gut flora. And by creating the gut flora inside our stomach, it's that's where our immune system is. But also we're able to absorb the nutrients and vitamins that we consume. So being able to absorb the nutrients and vitamins that you eat is very advantageous. It helps the brain and the stomach communicate. It enables your immune system to stand up against cold and flus. And then there's other avenues that, particularly with cabbage, there's a long list of benefits in cabbage. And so by fermenting cabbage or fermenting foods, what we're doing is we're taking those attributes that are actually good, and we're multiplying them. We're making more. And so by making more and consuming more, we're also consuming those probiotics, which enables us to assimilate that which we're eating. And there's like a long list of good reasons why to consume both beets and cabbage. Like there's just so many, like anti-cancer, like what 2 or 3 tablespoons of fermented sauerkraut equals to between 1,000 and 100 million probiotics. So if you bought a very expensive probiotic in a pill form, you get like 100 trillion. But if you took a tablespoon on a daily basis, you get between 1,000 and 100 million. That's just a tablespoon. Then like there's the immune system. So many people are getting sick at the drop of a hat. There's this COVID going all around. So building up the immune system is exceedingly important. Then with the communication between the stomach and the brain, there's so much with that. So there's like having the proper gut flora lowers stress levels and increases brain health. I mean, then the cancers, like basically any cancer based on inflammation, what we're doing is we're lowering the inflammation. So we're lowering our chances of getting a cancer. And then as well, we're also lowering the ability to defeat those cancers. And then there's the heart. So in the heart, there's tons of K2 in cabbage. So K2 is very good for the hearts. And again, we're taking a probiotic, we're making a probiotic, and we're making more K2, which is more better for the hearts. And then as well in the hearts, so a lot of people get, not a lot of people, but some people get blockage, particularly as you age, and it's calcium deposits in the heart and the veins there, and they cause heart attacks, strokes. And what this does with the cabbage, it actually moves the calcium away and speeds up the blood flow, both to the brain and to the heart. There's just so many different things. And then with beets, beets are also equally amazing. Lowers blood pressure. It fights, again, inflammation, which causes cancer, which causes many different things. So, I mean, like beets and cabbage are such a good, healthy food for us. But now what I hope to do is explain how we're going to ferment that. And with the fermentation, that process is going to actually exacerbate or make the good things in both in cabbage and beets better in the easier to absorb and better, more of it in the body. A little note, red cabbage and red beets and the red pigmentation is so good in the body. I mean, like a green cabbage is a 5, red beets is like a 10. It's just like so much better for the body. And then again, back to the inflammatory issues, like there's cancers, there's all sorts of, like there's a recent study done on people with multiple sclerosis, and there's a huge link between the inflammation in their brain and their gut flora, and most of them are lacking the proper gut flora, and like it's just like a basic thing, and yet people with MS most of them don't even know this kind of stuff. So like it's and this is old, like this goes back 4,000 years, and people are taking, like, again, antibiotics, they're preserving, they're buying stuff that kills off the germ, and with this we're creating all those lovely germs. So I mean, like it's just unbelievable. Like I have here some beet kvass already made, and you can see some of the foam on top. Well, that's the salt activating with the sugars in the beets and the ginger, and now we're starting to get some fermentation. And then there's other signs of fermentation, like I have kombucha. So I got to put my thumb on top, and it'll explode. So that's all the fermentation. So the natural, I added more beets. I mean, I added more blueberries, and those blueberries are now the sugar's feeding the probiotic mother, and we're getting the fermentation. So this is like almost like a kombucha champagne. So so here we go. So we need I got some shredded cabbage, both red and green cabbage, organic, and then I also have some shredded beets, organic, and some shredded carrots. So I'm going to add all that in there, and then to this I'm going to just add 3 teaspoons of salt. So I'm using a pink salt here from the Himalayas. Yes, this is pink salt from the Himalayas, and it's mined. So the pinkness is just nutrients and different good things for you. And not that salt's a good thing for you, but the difference between this salt and sea salt is a lot of sea salt is contaminated with bits of plastic from the oceans. So this I know doesn't have any plastic. So I'm keen on using the Himalayan pink salt. You can also get pink salt from the Andes. So I'm adding 3 teaspoons of salt, and then I'm going to use the best tool in the kitchen to work with. I'm going to use my hands. So what I need to do here is I need to get everything all funky. I need to get all the salt absorbing all the liquids and drawing all that liquid out of the cabbages and the carrots and the beets. So basically all I need to do is just get my hand in there, a clean hand, by the way, and just start rubbing and turning it around. And so this process is the beginning of the fermentation. Now you get your hands all dirty and everything else, but by doing this, we're going to extract a little bit of water out of the cabbages and the carrots, and that's going to be the basis for the fermentation. So once we put it in a jar, it's going to end up end up like this. See, this is all the liquid on top there. That's oh, I can't see it. Sorry. All the liquid on top is this is cabbage, and all that liquid on top is from the cabbage itself, and it's extracted using salt. Interesting enough, both salt and sugar chemically respond the same. they absorb liquid. They they taste different, obviously. They act on different parts of the tongue, but yeah, salt and sugar respond the same. They absorb liquid. So that's what we're trying to do here. And you can see at my hand, I'm like squeezing it and getting it all funky. So this process takes a little bit of time, sorry, but one of the advantageous things about this is you get a bit of a workout, but also you're going to see what happens when you're squeezing all this. It shrinks, it goes down, and that's a good sign that you're getting some of the liquid out of the cabbage, beets. So then what we'll do is we'll let this rest for a bit, and what we'll do is I'll make the beet kvass, and we'll come back to this momentarily. But again, like it's just it's the process, right? And it just takes time. But like anything, it's worth the time, because this is going to help, like I said, the gut flora. And if it takes like just one round of antibiotics takes at least a year or two for the gut flora to come back. And doctors prescribe antibiotics, well, I think it's 70% of the time, which they shouldn't. So there's numerous people walking around with their gut flora off, and this will help rectify that. Okay, so let's let that sit for a bit. I'll rinse off my hands, and we'll start the process of making the beet kvass. So now with beet kvass, it's Russian, I believe. The Russians used to use sourdough bread to make kvass, but you can use carrots, you can use beets, you can use almost anything. So with that process, it's very simple. So what you do is take some jars, and you use 3, I believe, and then I need to add my salt. So my salt is just a tablespoon, so that's easy. So what I did earlier is I cut up 3 beets, organic beets again, small size. I didn't have to peel them. And then I also have some ginger here, a knob, and I just cut it up, put it all together. And then now I'm going to add my salt. Actually, forgive me, I did this backwards. What we need to do is we need to mix this up and then just add it in. I guess methodology is important, isn't it? So basically, you're just filling up a mason jar like this, about halfway full. And then what we'll do is we'll add our salt. And then we'll fill up with just half water. So this recipe calls for 1.5 liters, which I already have measured out. And then what we'll do is we'll add our salt. Now, 3 teaspoons equals a tablespoon. And then I have my water. I'm not using tap water. I'm using filtered water. But I'm going to add my water. Just about halfway. And then what we'll do is put a lid on top. We need this water still, but we'll put a lid on top. And we'll distribute the salt evenly. Now this takes, well, this is not even a week old, but you know, like I showed earlier, there's also the foam on top. So that means that the fermentation process has started. But this takes about 3 to 4 weeks. And what you'll end up having is you'll get all this liquids. You want to strain. You know, you can use the beets and ginger out of the salad or whatever you want. But what we want out of this is we want the liquids. And we don't need to drink lots. But like I said, what did I say earlier? I said, yeah, so like a teaspoon or a tablespoon of this has up to 100 million different probiotics. So like, that's just like, it's huge. And it's so easy to do, right? Like you don't have to go, if you buy a decent probiotic at the health food store, they're quite dear. I know I get in trouble from my wife buying them. So now I add the rest of the water. A little bit too much, but that's okay. Just add some more. Take Peter to pay Paul. And that's it. Basically, we're done. We have beet kvass. Now, like I said, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks. Shake it back up. Make sure that salt's dissolved. So now, to let this ferment, it's going to take, like I said, 3 to 4 weeks to finish. But what you do is you open the lid and just leave it ajar, like not a jar, just put it on loosely. So what we want the air to move. And we'll just leave it there. Better to cover your ferments. I have tea towels on all mine because the light slows it down. And you just let it sit there. And every once in a while, just give it a shake because you don't want any mold on top. And that's it. Like it's just that simple. It's really that easy. And with again with the probiotics, like all the probiotics you get in this, you're gonna all the food that you eat, you're able to assimilate all the vitamins and nutrients easier. The brain connection and the gut connection, it's just like they're talking to each other, and the anti-cancer. There's just so many good reasons why one will do that. So now back to this. I'm going to give it a little bit more, but you can feel the moisture. It's a little bit wet. But what we're going to do is we're going to put these into jars and I'm going to pack them down a bit. I don't know if you can see the liquid. Nah, too hard to see. But there's a little bit of liquid in the bottom. And that's from the salt absorbing the water out of the cabbage and beets and that. And so now what we do, made a bit of a mess. So now we're just going to pack it. Now, packing this is very important. How it's done. So what we're going to do, again, the best tool in the kitchen is your hand. So what we're going to do is going to put some in. A bit messy, but that's okay. So now I don't have. My wife gets mad at me for buying kitchen tools, but there's little plungers that you can use to press down. Like I said, I don't have such a thing. So I used to use my wooden spoon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack it down. That's it. I'm just going to keep doing that around and around. So what we're doing is we're pressing it down, and you're gonna see some liquid after a while, and that's what we want. And we leave that for a week or less, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. Cooler kitchen longer, a warmer kitchen shorter, and away out of the sun, like I said earlier. And what's going to happen is you're going to get this again. The salt's going to be in there. It's going to be killing off all the bad germs and allowing the lactic acid only to live in that environment, which will then start converting the sugars in the cabbage and the beets and that, and start extracting all the goodness out, which will be boosting it at the same time. And then when we go to eat it, it's like it's a superfood for us. And we build our up our gut flora. It helps with helps with brain issues, again, helps with illness and all that kind of stuff. It's just amazing. But the trick is pushing it down. And they have I think it's metal, and you fits in like a mason jar, and you just push everything down. So you can see a bit of liquid in the bottom there. And that's a good sign. So I have to put all this in my jars, which will take some time. But that's how you make a sauerkraut. Now you don't have to add beets. You just add straight cabbage. You can add different things. I got pineapple. I got apples. There's different ways to make sauerkraut, but basically it's just the base is the salt and the cabbage, and there's just like you can add this to throw it into salads. You can just put it in on a sandwich. You can add it just by itself on a plate. And again, you don't have to eat tons of it. You don't have to eat 10 pounds a day. 3 or 4 tablespoons a day is more than enough. And you do it on a daily basis, you're going to see, like, particularly if you have taken lots of antibiotics and your gut flora is dead, there's going to be a battle inside your stomach. Because this is the good germs, and it's going into your stomach, and it's going to start fighting the bad germs, trying to get rid of the bad germs, and that can give gas, that can give some stomach pain. Again, depends on how often, how many times you take in the antibiotics. But like I said, this is over 3,000-4,000 years of age. People have been doing this for some time, and there's a slew of different type of probiotics as well. Like I said, like this is a sourdough starter, right? So sourdough starter, so you can make sourdough bread. Again, it's a different process of what I'm doing, but again, it's taking good probiotics, feeding your stomach, which again helps with the cancer, helps with brain issues, helps with thinking clearly. Like it's just amazing. I know people with MS, like it's just a huge thing, and they have a serious brain issue. So yeah, I hope this made sense, and I hope if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you for that. So Charlene says, do you leave the jars on the counter for 3 to 4 weeks? Mildred has commented a bit on that by saying depending on the temperature of your kitchen.
Yes, it depends on the temperature of the kitchen, and as well as how much light is affecting it. So you don't necessarily have to leave it there. The longer you leave it, the more gas you're going to get. Like I was showing you with this kombucha, right? Like I had to put my thumb on top to open it because it'll explode. So this is what's going to happen with your cabbage. So if you leave it for 3 or 4 weeks, you may not be able to open it, right? This I had to put in the fridge to get cold and be able to drink that. The cold will relax the fermentation process, and maybe to open or eat it. But a week, maybe 2 at the most, and that's good.
Great. Irene asks, where did you get the mother for your kombucha?
Oh, I've had it for years. I don't remember where I got the mother from. Oh, I traded some milk kefir grains for it. I got it from I just threw out a bunch. I got it from a fellow in Mississauga.
Yeah, I will say that there's like a lot of informal ways of getting SCOBY or like even sourdough starter. Buns Trading Zone, which is an app, you can get it on there. You can get it on neighborhood Facebook groups as well. I got it from Mildred. So yeah, it's just like small networks, and if you can't find it through there, then there's always online, or you can even reach out to any like kombucha brewery in Toronto. I could link it to you in the chat, Irene. If you live in Toronto, there's a couple of kombucha places here.
Also, with kombucha, if you buy kombucha at the health food store, a real one, and leave it in the fridge or just leave it out, it will grow a mother eventually. In fact, you'll find out whether you have real kombucha or not. If it doesn't grow a mother, it's not real kombucha. But if it does grow a mother, it might take 3, 4, 5 days. It'll start growing a small mother. To take that out and feed that, and you just need to keep feeding that. And I have uh, I have two 4-liter jars of kombucha going, and I have like big thick mothers. But I started off with a very small mother. I think doing half a liter at a time.
Thank you for that. DK is asking if the lid is a jar for both sauerkraut and kvass.
Yes, for both. So what you want to do on a daily basis, get up in the morning, get ready for work, whatever it is, and before you leave, just give it a shake, both the kvass and the cabbage. And what you're doing, so it's like making sourdough bread. So you have to introduce the yeast to the flour, to the protein in the flour. So in order to do that, you need to stretch and fold. You need to fold everything around and get it all comfortable. And the same with this. You need to get it all together, and they need to meet each other. So they're not able to walk around, even though the germs can. But to feed off the sugars, you got to introduce them to the sugars. So you just give it a shake every day.
Back to the question regarding the SCOBY. So if you were to buy kombucha from a store, does it need to be refrigerated to grow the mother?
Depending on the kombucha. Some I grow kombucha in the fridge. That's how powerful they are. But the weaker ones, if you buy it in the store, again, it may not necessarily be real true blue kombucha, but it will grow anywhere. All the fridge is doing is slowing things down. It's not stopping. Freezing is stopping. Fridge is slowing down. So it might take 2 or 3 weeks longer in the fridge as opposed to using it outside. But the sun's the worst thing for any of this. The sun kills some of the germs and prevents the fermentation process.
Irene, I'm linking a great recipe of how to make your own SCOBY out of store-bought kombucha, and they tell you like which type of kombucha you would need to buy from the store in order to do that.
Yeah, it's best to find a SCOBY from like local network. That way, you're certain that it's alive. We tried to order off Amazon and it didn't turn out well until we learned that Daniel has some extra SCOBY. So actually, we have grown our kombucha, and as we grow each batch, we always get a new mother. So we put them in a jar, and it's called the SCOBY Hotel. So you just get like the mother, like the water, so that like they stay in there and then they stay alive. And we have shared it to 2 people in the community, including Christina. So it's a fun way. Actually, it's a very if you want to do something like science experiment with your kids, which we do. Sometimes we have some like fun explosion in the kitchen, and which is part of it, and my son loves it. So, and you can flavor it with different things, ginger, strawberry, whatever fruits you have in the season. Just to show you what Daniel is like talking about, this is a handy tool to push down on your sauerkraut. So it came as a package like this.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So it came as a package like this, and it has also like a weight, because when you are when you are fermenting the kombucha, at the top of it, it has to be submerged. It has to be submerged in the brine itself, so that no molds would grow in it. So this is a way to like submerge all the cabbage, push it down into the brine. Okay. So you don't need all of this. I was able to manage to do like 2 batches of my cabbage without these gadgets. Okay, I bought this gadget for our urban harvest to have it as like a demo purpose. But when I first made my first batch, okay, even this one I made it like without these gadgets, and it turned out very well. So, and after I put it like see, I think it's almost like 8 months and still good, and it tastes good. And the way to know that your ferment went well is that it develops lactic acid. That means like sour, so it would taste sourish in the end. Okay, if it tastes something other than that, check. Let it like stay on a little bit, because here in Canada our kitchens are a little bit cold, so let it ferment a little bit more.
I forgot to mention. So what I do is I take the outer cabbage leaves, right? Take the outer cabbage leaves, and then what I've done, you can see this one over here. I'll pull it out, I guess. Well, it's pushing down the cabbage and the liquid just above it. So what I'll do at the end of this is I'll make a small piece that fits to push it all down, and then all that liquid that I extracted will come up over. And so you keep it above, keep the liquid above the cabbage, because any cabbage exposed to the air, like Mildred said, will risk a mold, and you don't want mold in these things.
There's a couple questions. Katie says, what is the base for a kombucha? For example, the base of sourdough is flour, sauerkraut base is cabbage. It's tea. Katie, it's fermented tea.
No, so sourdough is not fermented flour. Yeast grows in the field. I mean, the flour grows in the field, and the winds blow through. So as the winds blow through, there's wild yeast that land on the flour. So what you're doing is you're taking water and extracting those yeasts. So you start off with this. So I started off with this starter. I started off with maybe half or a third. And so what I did was on a daily basis, actually the first 3 days, I did twice a day. And what I did was to whatever my volume was, I removed half and fed it again with the same amount of fresh flour and fresh water, not tap water. And I fed it to the starter and mixed it up, and kept doing that 10, 12 days. And then I took that, and then I made a loaf of bread with a small loaf. But before I baked that loaf of bread, I took a big chunk and fed it back into the sourdough starter. So the thing with kombucha is like a mushroom, and it needs tea and it needs sugar to actually extract those nutrients from. The same as this, because we're adding starch from our flour. So white flour has more starch than whole wheat, but then whole wheat has many beneficial, like the bran and the germ. And depends where you get your flour from. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But what you're doing is it's a process. So ideally you just don't add yeast and water and flour and salt and then let it sit there. That's called no knead, and which is drives me nuts. What you want to do is you want to move everything around, like I'm doing here with this with a cabbage. I'm moving stuff around and getting stuff all together, and I move them on a daily basis. And the same with this, I got to feed this on a weekly basis, or bake with it at least on a weekly basis. And when I bake with it, I need to feed it. And the same with the kombucha. So I got to make kombucha. I got to do 4 liters of kombucha every 10 days. I could go longer. I can go 20, 30 days, but then I have vinegar. And so I want the sweetness of this. So it's all about processes. It's not necessarily about ingredients. It's how you manipulate the ingredients. I hope that makes sense.
That was great, Daniel. Thank you. If we don't have any more questions, I think we're going to move on to the last presentation. And if there are questions, we can always go back to it at the end of today's session. But we have Adrienne next. Adrienne is a professional chef and food stylist who is also a resident of Jane and Finch. She's been helping us out and has reached out to us during the quarantine, offering her amazing skills to do recipe development with the foods that we grow, and also just thinking of creative ways of incorporating local food that people might not be as familiar with. So today, Adrienne's going to be showing us great recipes on cooking with your preserved goods. We get excited about food preservation, but sometimes we don't know what to do with our canned peaches or any of that next. So Adrienne's here to help us out with that today.
Hey everyone, yeah, so I'm Adrienne. Today I'll be making Today I'll be making 3 different recipes. The first one is a peach mango salsa. So we're going to be featuring canned peaches, some pickled radish, and then we'll be moving on to a cheesy tomato chickpea stew, and we're going to be pairing that with pesto polenta. So our third recipe, which I think is pretty exciting, so I'm going to be making a cocktail using beet juice from pickled beets, as well as apple cider and apple butter. That way we can use a whole bunch of different preserved goods that we have. So I'm going to be starting off with our peach mango salsa. So I'm going to be starting off by adding the canned peaches that I have here. I've chopped them up. It's about 1 cup. Then we're going to be adding some mango, 1.5 cups. Pickled radish, which is 1/2 cup. And I finely chopped that. The pickled radishes I actually made myself here at home. Then we're going to be adding cilantro, which is chopped. Then we have some red onion. And then 2 tablespoons of lime juice, just to add a little bit of acidity. Then we're going to season with a bit of salt and pepper. So this recipe, as you can see, is very, very easy to do. I love the different flavors that are in here. Basically, I love the idea that we're bringing a little bit of summer back to fall weather, especially since everything is starting to turn a little bit more savory and a little bit more hearty. This salsa gives you a little bit of freshness, and it just brings you back to summer, which I really enjoy. And it's a different way to use your canned peaches instead of just using it for sweet dishes. I like the fact that this is a very savory dish, and yet it's also a little bit sweet from all the different ingredients. So basically that's it. It's a dump and stir, which I really enjoy. It's very simple. Now you can easily serve it with some chips and salsa. Sorry, chips, and this is your salsa. So I'm just going to be serving that very simply like that. Or you can even top your tacos. This one, I simply have just some roast chicken just to show you the versatility of the recipe. You can use this on like a pulled pork taco, which would be really great with the pork. So yeah, this first recipe is pretty much done. All right, so I'm gonna be moving on to our second recipe, which is the tomato chickpea stew. So here I have some onions, garlic, and paprika sauteing in a little bit of olive oil. So you put the paprika in just so you can toast the flavor a little bit more. It just gives a nice, almost smoky, earthy flavor to it. Now you add some canned roasted red peppers. These ones I just got in the store, but you can use ones that are made from home. And then you just pick out your favorite tomato sauce, whether it's canned from home as well or store-bought. Just add that in. That's about 2 cups or the whole can. And then you add your chickpeas. Now I'm actually saving the aquafaba from it because this is what we're going to be using for the cocktail. So you're gonna stir that together. Ideally, this would cook for about 10 to 15 minutes, just so the flavors will all come together, and then the sauce reduces a little bit and it becomes a little bit more stewy. Yeah, so this recipe again is very simple, but it's a really great way to use some of your canned goods. Now you're gonna let this heat up until it's, for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can go a little bit longer if you'd like, just until the consistency is a little bit thicker. But just for the sake of this, I'm gonna be adding a little bit of cheese over top, just so it makes it a little bit more ooey gooey and delicious. So again, cook this for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can add your cheese. But for the presentation, I'm just gonna add it right now. Okay, so we're gonna cover that. And we'll let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes until the cheese is nice and melty. So while waiting for that, I'm gonna show you guys how to make the pesto polenta. So I've actually already prepared the polenta, but it's very easy to do. It's basically just 4 cups of chicken stock or vegetable stock, whichever one you want to use. And then you pour in 1 cup of cornmeal. So it's the ratio for this is 4 parts of liquid to 1 part of the cornmeal. And it gives you this really delicious silky consistency. And then a great way to use your pesto. This one I got from the Black Creek Community Farm. It's actually a oh my god, what's this called?
Garlic scapes.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Yeah, so it's a garlic scape pesto with basil. So we're gonna be adding 2 tablespoons of it. Yeah, so again, these recipes are very simple. You don't have to go really complicated on making and using your canned goods. You can pretty much add it to almost anything. And this just gives like a really great flavor to something super simple and almost bland as cornmeal. So it just, again, it gives you great flavor. All right, so that's pretty much it for that recipe. They go really great together. Okay. So we're gonna put the polenta on there. As you can see, it's nice and melty now. Again, ideally, this would be better served with the stew a little bit more cooked down. That way all the flavors melt together. But these two recipes pair really well together. And then we're just gonna garnish that with a little Parmesan. And then a little bit of basil. And then there you have it, our second recipe. So you can actually make this recipe vegetarian. I know that there's a lot of vegetarian cheeses that are out there right now, and they're all really great too. So yeah, you can definitely use that. For the polenta, you can use vegetable stock. Yeah, these recipes are gonna be super easy, and they're really tasty as well. So now I'm gonna be moving on to the cocktail recipe. Just gonna grab some ice. Okay, so you're gonna be starting off with some apple juice or apple cider. Here I have apple cider. So we're gonna be doing 2 ounces of this. I like using the apple cider just because it's a little bit more hearty than just apple juice. And there's a little bit less sugar in it as well. So you just put that in your cocktail shaker there. And then here I have some apple butter that I made. So I went apple picking a few weeks ago and I just had too many apples. I didn't know what to do with it. So I made some apple butter. So this one does have like a little added sugar as well as some spices like cinnamon, nutmeg. I think that would go really great in this cocktail. But if you only have just like plain applesauce, that will work really well too. It just doesn't have that added spices and like added sugar. So you're just gonna put that in cocktail shaker. Now again, I have some beet juice. So this is some pickled beets that I made a few weeks ago as well. Now I like using pickled beet juice in a lot of things. I actually put it in my smoothies sometimes. It's just a tablespoon, so and you don't really taste a lot of the pickliness just because the beet flavor is so very strong. But I also like using it in vinaigrettes and dressings for my salad. So you can use like the liquid in so many ways. Don't throw that away. And again, like it's just going to be really interesting. And if you like beets, you're going to love this recipe. So you're going to put 1 tablespoon of that right in there. And then you're going to be using 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Sorry, I'm just gonna wipe that. You're gonna be using 1 tablespoon of lemon juice just to add a little bit of tartness to the recipe. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna be using the aquafaba, which is the liquid from the canned chickpeas. So aquafaba is really a really great vegan substitute for egg whites. It kind of whips the same way, well, not the exact same way, but very similarly to egg whites. It emulsifies and it becomes aerated, and it works very similarly to egg whites. So we're going to be putting 2 tablespoons of that. It may seem like much, but 2 tablespoons is actually the same amount as 1 egg white. And the really cool thing about it is you don't taste any of the chickpea flavor. So then once all those ingredients are in, now I'm making this a non-alcoholic cocktail, but if you would like, you can add your choice of alcohol. I think whiskey would actually work really well, just to it goes really well with the apples, or you can use something neutral like vodka, or I also like using gin. But just to make it a little bit more kid friendly, we're gonna be using, we're gonna not make it alcoholic. So you're gonna add some ice into that. Place your lid. And you're gonna be shaking that. Make sure your lid is on tightly. You're going to be shaking that for about 10 to 15 seconds. Okay. So you're going to take 2 of your cocktail glasses. You're just going to pour that in. Actually, I feel like I should shake this a little bit more. So it just adds a little bit of the the aquafaba just adds a little bit of frothiness to it. And then you're going to top it off with a little bit of tonic water just to give it a little bit of effervescence. And there you have it. You can actually add some ground cinnamon just with a little bit of garnish to that. And there you have it. These are your 3 delicious recipes using all kinds of delicious preserved goods.
Adrienne, that was amazing.
Just gonna add a little bit more to that. Thank you.
Oh, it's so
Do you
beautiful.
guys have any questions?
Oh my God, this is so mouth-watering stuff. Oh my goodness, Lord.
Yeah, so as you can see, the aquafaba, the drink has started to separate, and that's what you really want for this recipe.
Thank you for that, Adrienne. That looks amazing.
Really happy you guys like it.
All right. If there are any questions or any comments that you would like to make, the floor is yours now. You're getting a lot of comments in the chat. Everyone's just loving it. Charlene loves the colors. I agree with that. It's so beautiful. And Mildred said that the drink is really great for the holidays, which I agree with.
Yeah, exactly. And I really enjoyed Daniel's presentation as well, speaking to like just beets, and who would have thought that a cocktail would be this healthy almost.
All right. If there's no, well, firstly, before I get into it, Mandy says it all seems so easy. I'm sure to try making them all. Great. That's, yeah, we hope that, it's great that you were able to show that canned foods and preserved foods could make such wonderful and fresh and healthy looking meals.
Yeah.
I love all the colors. This is really cool.
Yeah. Question, Adrienne. If you are making your chickpeas, boiling it from scratch, so you're using the water the same way from where you boiled the water, the chickpeas?
Yes, I believe so. I haven't really tried it just yet. Just because I mostly have canned ones just in my pantry. I don't often cook chickpeas, and I personally haven't tried it just yet, but I would assume so. But what I have read is just be careful of the thickness. So if your aquafaba is really runny, it may not froth as much. So you're gonna want an aquafaba that's a little bit thicker.
Great. Thank you. So how about everyone else? I wonder how you use your own like preserved goods. Anybody from the audience who wants to share how they use their preserves?
Eat them. Irene says to eat them straight out of the jar. It's amazing. I've seen really cool recipes on deep frying, making like deep fried kimchi balls.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Yeah.
deep fried kimchi. Wow.
Yeah. Or you don't have to fry them. You could always bake it too.
Depending what kind of fat you deep fry them in, that'd be amazing.
It's like kimchi fritters, pretty much.
Yeah. Wow, I like that.
Liv says they make kimchi stew with tofu and pork/beef. That sounds amazing too. All right. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you all the presenters for sharing and leading in these really great and educational workshops. And we hope to see you in future workshops that we're going to have. The Urban Harvest program has, like for Black Creek Community Farm, does run bi-weekly workshops online every other Wednesday. So keep an eye on for that. If there's no more questions or comments, we're going to move on to doing a quick poll. This poll will really help us. So if you could stay for an extra 5 minutes for that, that would be great. And we're going to have Charlene lead in that today.
Can I ask a question, guys? Mandy here.
Yes.
Does anybody know? Yeah. Does anybody can help me with the how to do? Because I have a lot of tomatoes, so I want to, do the process of sun drying tomatoes. So sun dried tomatoes. If somebody can just give me a suggestion.
in the summer, it would work very well. One of our leaders actually, what she does with her tomatoes is that she puts it and dries it in her car. I
Oh,
haven't tried
okay.
it, but it's so successful. She's been doing it for quite a while now, especially like cherry tomatoes. She just lay them
Yeah.
down in like what do you call this? Like a sheet or like a screen, and then like that just puts it in the car. So the car is like it acts like an oven in the summer. So that's what she does. Another way to do it is by conventional oven. If you don't have dehydrator, you can just use your oven and just put it at a lowest setting. So this there's no exact like science to it, but it would act like a dehydrator. Lowest setting, and then just put like cut it up into like depending on how big the size of your tomato is. The best tomatoes. What kind of can I ask? What kind of tomatoes you have?
Yeah,
Are
I
they,
have those grape one, the grape ones.
oh, the
The
small
small grape.
tomatoes.
Yes.
Oh, cool. So if you just cut them into half, they will dry
Half.
fast because they are small.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So yeah, so you can just like put them at a very low setting so it doesn't like burn fast, and you can just like put your oven like ajar a little bit if you want it to act like a dehydrator. There's another recipe that we posted on our Instagram. I don't know if Christina can also like put that up. So that's another way to do it. It's on a high temperature. Just play around with your oven as well. I made one that is on based on that recipe, and I also made one that is on the lower side. So I it tends to burn fast. So just lower down the temperature of your oven and make it like a longer time to like dehydrate.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll try it out too. Thanks.
I have one really good question actually from Liv. Where did you get your metal dehydrator?
So yeah, so this metal dehydrator, I got it from Nella. So it kind of like industrial size or industrial quality. But I forgot to show you. I'm just gonna show a different one that is a lot cheaper and it's more suited for like home dehydration. I'll just get it. So it is this guy. So this brand is called Weston, and it works the same way. Like it has these screens, and there's a fan at the bottom of this dehydrator. So it has like several layers of these screens, and it has this button, the control start time, and then the temperature and time. So this cost around 130 at that time. I also bought it from Nella. So far, when I was researching the dehydrator, these are good brands that we got that is affordable for most people. So yeah.
Lastly, I wanted to plug this in. Adrienne is going to be one of the amazing chefs featured for our fundraiser that's taking place in December. We're having a fundraiser where you can take home some meals that are cooked by chefs and that are also Jane and Finch residences. One of them is Adrienne. So if you really, really enjoyed the workshop today, you might want to consider taking home a dinner that is made by her. I'm linking it in the chat for you guys.
How much apple cider did she use in the for the cocktail?
So I use 2 ounces, which is a quarter cup.
And for everyone who wants the recipes for things today, we will be following up this workshop with an email with all of the recipes. So no worries. And you can always